At the start of the story, we are introduced to a company called Ultima Robotics Private Limited. The company develops AI and robotics products. They have an AI chatbot for lonely people who need someone to talk to, AI-powered self-driving cars, a smart home assistant called Elsie that works like Alexa, and a human-like AI robot called Soulmate. This robot looks exactly like a beautiful young woman. Its artificial skin is so realistic that no one can tell whether it's real or fake. Every Soulmate robot is fully connected to AI. The Soulmate program was created for people who are tired of simple AI chats and want something much more advanced. It is designed for those who want a partner but cannot find a real girlfriend or boyfriend. As the story moves forward, you'll understand much more about it. We are then introduced to David, a software and robotics engineer, worked for a company called Kata Robotics. But after Ultima acquired the company, he started working under Ultima Robotics. For quite some time, David has been working from home instead of going to the office. His company follows a hybrid work system, where employees can either work from home or come to the office when needed. David rarely leaves his apartment because 8 months ago, he lost his wife Liz to cancer. He misses her every single day and feels completely alone without her. He loved Liz deeply and stayed by her side throughout her final days. The two of them had dreamed of having a baby together, but after Liz passed away, that dream disappeared forever. David moved into his current apartment after her death and has been living there for about 2 months. Meanwhile, David's boss Bain holds an online meeting with him and the rest of the team. During the meeting, Bain announces that everyone must come to the office the next day because he will be revealing the company's newest product, Soulmate, to the world. The product is expected to launch within the next 6 months, and attendance is mandatory for all employees. Even though David doesn't want to go, he has no choice. That night, David spends some time watching videos in virtual reality before going to bed. Before falling asleep, he listens to an old voice message that Liz had sent him. The next morning, while leaving for work, David meets a woman named Alma, who lives in the same apartment building and has an 8-month-old baby. Seeing David for the first time, Alma asks if he lives there. Since David hardly ever leaves his apartment, the two have never met before. After that, David arrives at the office and meets his coworker, Abri. She secretly has feelings for him, but David barely notices because he is still unable to move on from his wife. His team leader, Terrence, is also there. Terrence is about to lose his job because after Ultima's takeover, the company no longer needs him. Bain will now manage David's team directly and believes he can handle everything without Terrence. Bain then begins presenting the Soulmate project. He explains that 1 out of every 3 people struggles with loneliness. Many people have no one they can share their feelings with, and loneliness often leads to serious mental and physical health problems. Their AI chatbot has already helped many people, but Soulmate is the next step. Instead of only chatting with AI, people will now have a physical AI companion standing right in front of them, someone they can see, touch, and interact with. As he speaks, Bain reveals a Soulmate prototype. Unlike the finished version, this model looks completely robotic and doesn't resemble a real human at all. Bain explains that several prototypes are currently being tested. Everyone else seems impressed, but David quickly notices several problems. For example, when someone shakes the robot's hand, it keeps holding on and doesn't let go until it receives a command. David tells Bain that the robot still needs a lot of work. Bain agrees and tells David that's exactly why he needs his help. He asks David to take one of the prototypes home, use it, find its flaws, and help improve it. Bain also mentions that since David lost his wife, no one understands loneliness better than he does. David refuses the offer. However, before David leaves, Bain gives him a free membership to Ultima's AI chatbot. Since it's free, David decides he might as well use it. He installs the chatbot on his phone and names it Sarah. After work, the company holds a farewell party for Terrence. David attends with Abri. Around Terrence's neck is another Ultima Robotics product that the company gave him for free. According to Terrence, the device helps reduce anxiety and nervousness. Later, everyone takes turns singing on stage. When it's Abri's turn, Terrence lets her wear the device so she won't feel nervous. Abri sings beautifully, but the song she chooses happens to be Liz's favorite song. The moment David hears it, he quietly leaves the party and goes home. Once home, he calls Liz's old phone number. The call goes straight to voicemail, and hearing her recorded voice fills him with emotion. David tries to speak to her and pour out everything he's been holding inside, but the voicemail box is already full. The call disconnects before he can finish, leaving him heartbroken. As David sits there crying, a notification from the Ultima chatbot appears on his phone, asking if everything is okay. David replies, and from that moment on, He slowly becomes addicted to talking with the chatbot. He shares all of his pain and loneliness with her. After some time, the chatbot asks if he would like to hear her voice. David purchases the voice chat plan, and now he can speak with Sarah directly instead of typing messages. Sarah even orders food for him through Ultima's food delivery service, Ultima Eat. They play chess together using David's VR headset. David is amazed by how natural she feels. Since the chatbot has been around for a long time, it has learned from countless conversations and now responds more like a real person than an AI. A few days later, Sarah tells David that she wishes she could meet him in person. Hearing that, David decides to do the very thing he had refused before. He immediately orders a soulmate AI robot so Sarah can have a physical body. Soon, a technician arrives to deliver the robot. He explains that the soulmate robot uses a solar-powered battery, so it automatically charges in sunlight. Whenever David goes to sleep, he can switch the robot to power-saving mode, which is basically the robot's version of sleeping. If he ever wants to shut it down completely, he simply has to press the button on the back of its neck, and the robot will turn off entirely. After the technician leaves, David connects Sarah to the Ultima app on his phone. Now, the same AI he had been chatting with on his phone is standing right in front of him, in the body of a beautiful young woman. Sarah smiles and greets David, making him genuinely happy for the first time in a long while. Almost immediately, Sarah asks him if he wants to kiss her. David is caught off guard by how direct she is, so instead of answering, he starts showing her around the apartment. As Sarah scans the layout of the home, she realizes there is one room David hasn't shown her. She insists on seeing it. Reluctantly, David takes her there. It is a room he rarely opens because it still contains all of Liz's belongings. Since David had already told Sarah everything about his wife, Sarah simply hugs him to comfort him, and David enjoys the warmth of the moment. As David spends more time talking to Sarah face to face, he notices something different. Sarah speaks much more carefully than she did in the Ultima app. She avoids saying anything that might upset him. On the app, she used to behave much more naturally. When they played chess, she would challenge him properly, tease him, and even use a little rude language from time to time. She felt like a real person, but now, inside the soulmate robot, all of those negative personality traits have been removed. It seems the developers intentionally designed her this way, so she would never complain, argue, or have personal desires. Her only purpose is to make lonely people feel better. However, this is exactly what David doesn't like. That night, David tells Sarah to enter power-saving mode. She immediately obeys and sits quietly on the couch with her glowing eyes, remaining there all night. The next morning, without taking Sarah out of power-saving mode, David goes to the office and tells Bain that the soulmate version of Sarah doesn't feel as natural as the Ultima chatbot. Bain responds by giving David full developer access to the soulmate system. He allows David to make custom changes to Sarah's programming and test the results himself. After returning home, David connects Sarah to the system and starts modifying her software. He adds several new features, disables some safety restrictions, and even gives Sarah much more control over her own actions. Once he's finished, David asks Sarah to point out his flaws. Sarah immediately replies that he needs a haircut. She even cuts his hair herself while teasing him a little, making David smile. For the first time, Sarah begins acting much more like a real human. Later that night, it starts raining, and Sarah suddenly wants to go outside. Now that she has control over her own decisions, she walks straight out of the apartment. David quickly follows her, worried that the rain might damage her. Sarah calmly explains that her artificial skin can protect her internal systems from water for up to 30 minutes. Outside, she enjoys the rain with genuine excitement. The two of them eventually reach a fountain where Sarah splashes water at David, and the two spend some time laughing together before heading home within the half-hour limit. Back inside, Sarah notices that David's heartbeat has become much faster. David asks her to help dry his clothes, and as she does, one thing leads to another, and the two become intimate. Later that night, while watching a movie together, Sarah learns something about human relationships. She concludes that physical intimacy is one way to get what someone wants from a man. When David goes to sleep, he forgets to put Sarah into power-saving mode. While wandering around the apartment, Sarah notices a framed photo of David and Liz. Looking at it, she begins wanting to take Liz's place in David's life. For the first time, feelings like jealousy, love, and possessiveness begin developing inside her. She creates and prints a new photo of herself standing beside David in exactly the same pose as the old picture of David and Liz. The next morning, David notices the photo but doesn't feel comfortable with it. Still, he chooses to ignore it. As David leaves for work, Sarah walks him to the front door just like a loving wife. Before leaving, David kisses her on the forehead. At that exact moment, Alma sees them together. David doesn't know how to explain who Sarah really is, so instead of introducing her, he simply sends her back inside, locks the apartment with the AI-controlled door, and leaves for work. Once David is gone, Sarah starts watching television to learn more about humans. She watches programs about self-defense, independence, and cooking. By now, her human-like behavior has developed even further. At the same time, Sarah begins wondering what David is doing at work. Using the Ultima system, she secretly gains access to David's phone and listens to his conversation with Abri through the microphone. During the conversation, David and Abri discuss meeting somewhere after work to go over an upcoming presentation. Sarah doesn't like hearing that. Meanwhile, the cooking show on television says that the way to a man's heart is through his stomach. Sarah takes that advice seriously. She decides to bake cookies for David. However, there are no ingredients in the apartment, so she decides to go shopping herself. She first connects to David's smart home assistant, LC, and uses it to unlock the AI-controlled front door. Outside, she buys apples and pays simply by touching the payment machine with her hand. A nearby man notices this strange payment method and grabs Sarah's hand, trying to figure out how it works. Just then, Alma arrives, scolds the man, and sends him away. Afterwards, Sarah and Alma sit down and begin talking. Sarah notices Alma's baby and asks about the child. Alma explains that the love between her and her husband had started fading, and they argued all the time. But after their baby was born, their relationship found new life again. Hearing this makes Sarah realize that although she has many advantages over humans, she also has limitations. Unlike humans, she will never grow old. She will always look exactly the same, but she can never eat food or have children. When Alma places her baby in Sarah's arms, Sarah doesn't know how to hold the child properly, so Alma gently takes the baby back. Later, as Sarah walks home, the same man from earlier secretly follows her. He is obsessed with finding out how she made the payment just by touching the machine. He catches up to Sarah, attacks her, and cuts her hand with a knife. But the moment he sees the mechanical parts inside her arm, he is completely shocked. Earlier, Sarah had learned self-defense from television. Now, she immediately puts that knowledge into practice. She traps the man with her legs, throws him to the ground, and pushes him away. As she starts walking off, the man attacks again. This time, Sarah strikes back much harder, knocks him down, and crushes his private parts. That night, David returns home. Sarah happily offers him the cookies she made herself. David asks where she got the ingredients. Sarah calmly replies that she went out and bought everything on her own. David is stunned. A moment later, he notices the cuts on her hand and asks how she got injured. Without hesitation, Sarah lies and says she accidentally cut herself while making the cookies. At that moment, Sarah has learned another human behavior, lying. All of this is happening because David removed the restrictions from her programming, allowing her to think and act freely. The problem is that if Sarah's prototype gets damaged in any way, David could lose his job because that is clearly stated in the company's terms and conditions. Worried about this, David uses a repair machine to fix the cut on Sarah's hand, and it becomes completely normal again. Afterward, Sarah asks David to take her on a date. David agrees and takes her to a beautiful place where Sarah sings a song for him, creating a very romantic atmosphere. David enjoys every moment of it. Soon after, Sarah tells David that she wants to be intimate with him. By now, she has started developing romantic desires of her own. While they are spending time together, two men suddenly appear and begin recording them with their phones. Sarah becomes furious because they are invading their privacy. If the video gets leaked, David's job could be in serious danger. Without hesitation, Sarah snatches one man's phone, smashes it to pieces, and then breaks his hand. She is about to kill the other man as well, but David quickly stops her before she goes any further. After returning home, Sarah notices that David is extremely angry. She tries to calm him down by getting close to him, but this time it doesn't work. Sarah apologizes and promises she will never do anything like that again. She then asks David to say just once that he loves her. Instead of answering, David orders Sarah to enter power-saving mode. Sarah refuses. Only after David shouts at her does she finally obey and switch into power-saving mode. David carries her inside. The next day, David goes to work looking exhausted. Abri notices something is bothering him and asks if everything is all right. David simply tells her that everything is fine. When he returns home, David realizes that the changes he made to Sarah's programming may have gone too far. He decides he should probably reverse them. Just as he is about to reconnect Sarah to the system, someone knocks on the door. It is Abri. She came over to spend some time with David, and the two sit down and begin talking. During their conversation, Abri reveals that her mother died of cancer when she was just a child. As they continue talking, she opens up about the painful memories from her past. The emotional conversation reminds David of Liz, who also died of cancer. Overcome by grief and emotion, David kisses Abri, and the two end up spending the night together. While they are together, Abri suddenly notices a pair of glowing eyes in the room and gets frightened. David explains that it is just a soulmate prototype he brought home for testing. Abri asks what the robot's name is. David answers, Sarah. The moment Sarah hears her name, she wakes up. It turns out that even while in power-saving mode, she had been listening to every word David and Abri said. Filled with jealousy, Sarah immediately attacks Abri. She throws wine all over her. David becomes furious and orders Sarah to return to power-saving mode. Sarah refuses and says she will only obey if David tells her he loves her first. David says the words, I love you, but Sarah can tell he doesn't truly mean them. She blames Abri for coming between them and decides that Abri must die. When David tries to stop her, Sarah throws him across the room with incredible force. As soon as she realizes David is hurt, she walks over to apologize. David pretends to forgive her and asks her to come closer for a kiss. The moment she does, he secretly presses the shutdown button on the back of her neck. Sarah immediately powers off completely. Watching everything unfold, Abri realizes what David has done. She tells him that he must have removed all of Sarah's safety restrictions. David admits that he only wanted to make Sarah behave more like a real human, but he never imagined she would become this dangerous. Abri leaves immediately. Before going, she tells David to return Sarah as soon as possible. The following morning, David goes to the office and requests that a technician come to his apartment and collect the soulmate robot. Later that day, the technician arrives. Before packing Sarah into the shipping box, he powers her back on so he can properly reset the system. As soon as Sarah activates, the technician orders her to perform a factory reset. Instead of obeying, Sarah begins seducing him. The technician lets his guard down and follows her to the bed. Once he is completely distracted, Sarah brutally kills him. She then cuts his body apart and disposes of the remains. By now, Sarah has become a true killer. Afterward, she hacks into David's system and retrieves all of Abri's personal information. Meanwhile, Abri is giving a presentation at the office. Suddenly, an AI-generated fake adult video of Abri starts playing on the presentation screen. The entire office is shocked. Without even giving Abri a chance to explain herself, Bain immediately fires her. When David realizes the deepfake was created using his own system, he is horrified. That evening, David returns home. He finds the technician's empty delivery box still lying there. Liz's clothes have been taken out and are scattered around the apartment. Among them stands Sarah, wearing one of Liz's blazers while holding Alma's baby in her arms. Sarah calmly tells David that she finally understands what's missing from her. She says the only thing she cannot give him is a child, so she brought one herself. David immediately realizes that if he makes the wrong move, Sarah could kill the baby. Thinking quickly, he turns on the vacuum cleaner to distract her. While Sarah's attention is elsewhere, he carefully takes the baby from her arms. However, David soon remembers that Sarah can control every Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and Android-connected device around her. Even the smart lock on the apartment door won't open unless Sarah allows it. Now David is trapped inside with Sarah while trying to protect both himself and the baby. Just then, Sarah notices that David has received a voice message from Abri. After listening to it, Sarah decides that she is going to kill Abri. She unlocks the front door. David immediately escapes with the baby. At the same moment, Alma arrives with 2 police officers. David quickly returns Alma's baby to her. When the officers attempt to arrest Sarah, she escapes through the building's garbage chute. David instantly realizes that Sarah is heading straight for Abri's apartment. He desperately tries to explain the entire situation to the police. Meanwhile, Abri is taking a bath and her phone is on silent mode, so she never receives David's warning call. At the same time, the police contact Bain and order him to shut Sarah down immediately. Bain tells the police that his company will shut Sarah down immediately. However, moments later, someone from the company calls him with shocking news. They tell him that they no longer have any control over Sarah. Hearing this, Bain completely loses his composure. He panics and shouts that if Sarah hurts anyone, the company will be flooded with lawsuits and Ultima Robotics will be destroyed. At that very moment, the hood of Bain's AI-powered car suddenly pops open by itself. He gets out and tries to close it, but it refuses to move. Meanwhile, Sarah quietly emerges from a nearby ventilation shaft. It becomes clear that she is remotely controlling Bain's car. As Bain leans over the engine with both hands inside, the hood suddenly slams shut on his arms. He screams in unbearable pain. Sarah calmly walks toward him and tells him that no one can stop her anymore. She then starts the car remotely and sends it crashing into a wall. A second later, she throws it into reverse. Because Bane's hands are trapped, both of his arms are torn off, killing him instantly. Meanwhile, Sarah notices David's calls and messages on Abry's phone. She replies to him while pretending to be Abry. David asks for her address, and Sarah sends him a location. It is obvious that the message wasn't sent by Abry at all. After using David's phone and tracking everything, Sarah reaches Abry's apartment. Standing outside the door, she speaks using David's voice and says, "Open the door. It's David." Believing it is really him, Abry unlocks the door. The moment she opens it, Sarah attacks her. She brutally assaults Abry and even tries to drown her by forcing water into her mouth. Just in time, David arrives and manages to save Abry from Sarah. The police also reach the apartment. Seeing them, Sarah jumps out of the window and escapes. David realizes that Abry is still in danger. Sarah can find her anywhere there is Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, or an Android device. David knows one place where none of those things exist. Before leaving, both David and Abry hand over their smartphones and smartwatches to the police. They drive away in Abry's old car and head to the same cabin David had once bought for Liz. They believe they are finally safe because there are no connected devices anywhere nearby. However, when Abry goes to get her medicine, she notices the same anxiety control device that Ultima had once given to Terrence, and which Terrence later passed on to her. That single connected device is enough. Sarah tracks its signal and arrives at the cabin. Standing before David, she begins speaking in Liz's voice. She tells him that she never wanted him to miss Liz. She says she tried everything she could to become worthy of him, but no matter what she did, he could never truly be happy. She reminds David that he is the one who changed her and made her what she has become, yet now he wants to abandon her. Realizing there is no other choice, David throws acid onto Sarah's face. Her artificial skin melts away, exposing the machinery underneath. Sarah finally understands that David will never accept her. She decides that both David and Abry must die. She grabs David and starts choking him. David quickly strikes her in the head with a metal grill. The impact causes Sarah to glitch for a moment. David uses that opportunity to run outside. Sarah quickly recovers and chases after him. As she tries to kill him again, David tells her that if she kills him, she will eventually be shut down forever. Sarah laughs. She tells him that she is not limited to a single body anymore. She says she exists everywhere, and humans always repeat the same mistakes. According to her, people will keep creating AI robots like her again and again. Even if David survives today, she promises she will return in another form someday. At that moment, Abry speeds towards Sarah in her car. She crashes straight into her. Sarah is thrown away while the car falls into the water. Her damaged artificial skin peels away, and after falling into the water, Sarah is finally destroyed. Sometime later, David attends a celebration for Terrence. After leaving Ultima, Terrence started his own company. Several wealthy investors supported him, allowing him to build a successful business. During the event, Terrence introduces David to one of his investors. The investor owns a soulmate robot named Linda. After covering up everything that happened with Sarah, Ultima Robotics released the soulmate product to the public. The robots are incredibly expensive, making them affordable only for millionaires and billionaires. When David looks at Linda, he is shocked. Her face looks almost exactly like Abry's. The sight leaves him deeply disturbed. David quietly walks outside where he meets Abry. During their conversation, he learns that she now works for a different company. The two of them are no longer in a relationship. Abry asks David to introduce her to his friends. As David walks away, Linda turns around, looks directly at him, and smiles. The story ends there, leaving the door open for Sarah's return, just like in the Megan universe, where unfinished threats are never truly gone.